Hello, friends, and welcome. This is the RR Show. Hopefully you know me by now, but if you don't, I'm Vince, and we are going to be going through a bunch of r/TIFU stories. So I'm going to shut it, and we're going to jump right into it here on the RR Show. So our first story comes from user Ductoid. TIFU by accidentally buying 109 pounds of grapes, and things just went downhill from there. The store I shopped at last week had a special on grapes, $2 a box, but no way to weigh the boxes. They have the kind of scale that hangs from 3 chains, and the boxes didn't fit in them. So I got 4 boxes of grapes. Large boxes. I wanted them to make a batch of wine. For $8, it was a steal. The first thing I did after leaving the store was get the shopping cart stuck in a rut in the parking lot, and I couldn't pull it back out. A stranger helped me get out. Then I got home and was able to weigh them. A 5-gallon batch of wine uses 50 to 80 pounds of grapes. I had 109 pounds. Oops. Okay, so I hand pressed the grapes through a rack meant for cooling cookies. 3 hours later, I have enough mash to fill my 5-gallon fermentation bucket, and there are still more than half the grapes in my fridge. I decided to embrace this and made jam with one of the cases. I was at least happy to have a reason to use that no or low sugar pectin I bought a few years ago. 4 hours later, I got 22 pints of jam. 2 quarts didn't fit in the canner. I just tossed them in the fridge and they had screw-on lids, but the rest is all set for the pantry. But none of it actually gelled. The directions said it might take a few hours or overnight to get thick, but nope. The pectin must have been too old. 2018. I'm gonna have to unseal all the jars and recook it with sugar and can it again. And I still got like 30 pounds of grapes in the fridge. So I decided to turn my canner into fermentation bucket number 2 and make 5 extra gallons of wine, with the brilliant idea that I can use some of the ungelled jars of grapes to top it off, since I'll be a little short, and that will save me some reprocessing time with the jam. 4 more hours of hand smashing grapes, and that bucket's full, or almost. I do have to top it off with the liquid non-jam jam. I'll figure I'll start with 2 quarts from the fridge that never got sealed. I grabbed them from the basement and what? They aren't liquid. They are full on jelly now. Those guys gelled up in the fridge. So now I realize I can't use them and can't use any of the others that are still liquid at room temp because I can't have my wine gelling up if I refrigerate it. Somewhere in there I realized the store gave me a senior discount for being over 60, which I didn't ask for, and it's not a store with a loyalty card where they'd have my birthday on file. The cashier was just like, yeah, this one's obviously over 60. Don't need to card her. I've been 60 for like 2 weeks. That was especially demoralizing because I'd just been trying on dresses from my closet to see if they'd still fit for an event I'm going to this Wednesday, and was feeling smug because they did fit. And I was thinking I looked good in them. I was specifically thinking I don't look anywhere near 60. Wrong about that. I look old. I got a call from the event host today asking me where I was. I wrote the date wrong. The event was yesterday, and I missed it. And I need to buy either more grapes or more juice to finish that second bucket of wine. Our second story comes from user Not Lesbian. TIFU by getting lost and entering the nudist area. I, a 16-year-old male, went to a water park with my residential group last week, to be exact. We were in Tropical Island in Germany. Tropical Island is a pretty big indoor water park resort. If you don't have a map on you, you'll definitely get lost. So I left my phone in the lockers near the entrance. I walked to my locker to retrieve my phone and went back to where my group was at. I decided to go the longer way so I could explore a little. Unfortunately, this is where I messed up. I went into the Asia part of the resort. I guess I walked so confidently in that the employees didn't try to stop me. I look around a little and see this older man completely naked by a volcano-shaped building. I shrugged it off since I figured it was the sauna. Here in Germany, it's very common that you have to be naked or in a towel to enter a sauna, so I didn't think much of it. I keep walking around and realize that everyone there was either naked or only in a towel. This is where I start to realize that I was not supposed to be there. I stuck out like a sore thumb. You have to imagine that there's just these middle-aged to old people basically unclothed. And then there's just this visibly confused, clothed emo teenager that they were staring at and I was staring back. I continued to walk around trying to find a way out. It took me about 15 minutes to get out of there. I told this story to my group and they chuckled. However, the most confusing part is how I even managed to enter, because to enter that specific area, you have to pay. I know that's not a major one, but it's still kind of funny and pretty embarrassing. Our third story today, also from r/TIFU, comes from user Ryan Estrada. TIFU by playing along with the wrong handshake and denching my friend. I am incredibly socially awkward, especially since most events where I live take place in bars and I don't drink. So all the bonding, inside jokes, and camaraderie happen around activities that I don't partake in. I also work from home, so these events are the only times I get to interact with others. That means I have a lot of friends, but there's always a distance between us, and I feel left out of the more personal experiences. At a buddy's birthday party, I bumped into my friends Niall and Tim, who were excited to show me something. Niall had invented a new handshake. To do it, the hands make contact, but stay flat. Then you slide your hands across one another so that they go into the other person's sleeve. Then you wiggle your fingers to give one another's arm a little tickle. That looked incredibly weird to me. The night before, my wife and I had watched Notes on a Scandal, and the whole situation reminded me of an especially creepy scene where stalker Judi Dench did almost the exact same thing to Cate Blanchett. But Niall and Tim were super into it and laughing. I'm so rarely invited into these close bonding experiences that I figured, sure, I'm confident and cool enough not to be weirded out by having an under-the-sleeve fondle party with another dude, reenacting one of the creepiest scenes in Judi Dench's acting career, so I did the handshake with Niall. I showed them the movie scene on YouTube and suggested Niall call his new handshake denching. They agreed, and the party continued it. It was a weird thing, but, I felt included. In the weeks following, every time I saw Niall or Tim, I'd go in for a handshake, slide my hand along their hand, reach into their sleeves, and tickle their forearm. Eventually, I'd just shout, "Dench me," across the room as I walked up to them. I felt like I was finally getting close enough to my friend circle to share in one another's weirdness. After a couple of months of doing this, someone else at the table looked weirded out by this handshake, so I told him the whole story. As I explained, Niall looked confused. That's when he explained it from his point of view. As someone who doesn't drink, I was unaware of just how much of the nonsense people come up with when intoxicated they actually remember. Tim and Niall had zero recollection of inventing this handshake. As the only sober person in the conversation, I was the only one who remembered it. So from their point of view, I was the weird one who just out of nowhere started sliding my hand inside their shirts, fondling one of their arms in front of everyone while shouting, "Dench me." Even after explaining it, they weren't sure if they believed me. Our fourth story today on this r/TIFU episode comes from user Motor Presentation 76. TIFU by thinking cars are soundproof. So I began my singing journey a month or two ago. I was ecstatic when I finally unlocked my head voice a week ago, and I've been experimenting with it since. I can't do it at home because the walls aren't soundproof and my family is asleep at night. So every now and then I'd go to the underground garage and do my vocal exercises in my car. Sometimes I'd experiment with high notes and songs, and today was no different. Did a couple of sirens, sang 2 songs, and then called it a good day at practice and went upstairs. 10 minutes later, I heard the most aggressive bell ringing and door knock. Went to check it out, and it was 2 police officers waiting for someone to answer the door. I was hella confused and opened the door. They immediately started explaining how someone in the complex heard what sounded like a child screaming from my car. Immediately, I put 2 and 2 together. My mind began racing because, frankly speaking, I am so secretive about my singing that I didn't want anyone to know. My family heard the doorbell ringing, and I heard footsteps from the top floor, so I calculated that I have a 15-second window to explain and remedy the situation before things go sideways. The officer goes, "What was that sound?" And I go, "Me. I've been taking vocal lessons, and the car is the only place I can practice." He had a good laugh with his buddy and walked away. I slammed the door shut and gave my family half the story since I couldn't come up with a lie. It's so weird, but someone said weird voices were coming from the car. They wanted to investigate. Then I mentioned that I may have been going through Instagram Reels and laughing too loudly in the car. They called me dumb, and that was that. Maybe I should just save up for a trip to space so I can sing in peace. So our final story in this TAFU episode comes from Tetrageton. My apologies if I completely screwed up your username. All right, so the story title is TAFU. I made the entire ER think I had a heart attack. Well, so I scared an entire ER into a code mode for a stupid reason. I'll preface this by one thing about my medical history. I have torn the muscles between my ribs in a work-related accident a few years back. They're very scarred, but do not hinder me in any way in normal life. Scarred muscles are not good with blood flow as non-harmed muscles are. I've been having these chest pains while working night shifts. Nothing serious, just a bit of discomfort. My blood pressure is on the high side, so I've been told by my doctor to monitor it. This put me on edge about heart stuff. Now, at my work, there are 2 places where you can sit. At Station 1, I was fine. At Station 2, I got these chest pains. As it happened by chance, I always got Station 2 for night shifts and Station 1 for day shifts. The same doctor who warned me about my blood pressure also said that I should probably stop working nights. Then I took that one night shift after a worker before me had adjusted the chair to an extreme backwards tilt. I was fine for a few hours. Then I got these really bad chest pains on the left side of my body. My left arm went all numb, cold and hurty. The pain got worse and worse, and I could just barely use the keyboard with my left hand. This is all happening inside a hospital, so I went to the ER and asked the nurse in charge if this is something to be worried about. She freaked the F out. Well, not really. She's an extremely professional, cool, and collected person, but she raised the whole emergency team for a possible heart attack. They put on a blood saturation meter on my left index finger, and it didn't read anything. Zero zilch, no finger here, sir. I had to stop them from cutting my clothes up while they did an ECG. That's electrocardiography, where they put all these electrodes on your body to measure how your heart is doing. And everything was completely fine. Then the doctor asked me a lot of questions about these chest pains, including back and neck problems. As we discussed this, it started to dawn on me. The chest pains only happened during night shifts, not at home, even if I stayed up all the way to 4 a.m. The only time I had a night shift without any chest pains was when I was not sitting in the chair for Station 2. It was the chair that caused all this. I tested it, and I was right. The chair 2 made my chest hurt, chair 1 did not. Sitting on the chair 2 for a few hours made all these symptoms happen. Somehow, the way the chair is made impedes blood flow on me. Not like a chokehold, but just a bit. It takes hours. The scarring of my muscles on my left side made this lack of blood flow to manifest it as something way more severe. It was not the night shift. It was not my heart. It was not the overall stress I'm feeling as a fresh father. The stress about high blood pressure made way for psychosomatic symptoms, and I was freaked out. It was the chair. After adjusting it to a position that I find more uncomfortable, I now no longer get these random chest pains. And I'm really sorry to all the people who attended to me. Good job.
So thanks for being with us. The RR Show is a production of Evergreen Podcasts and Wessler Media. Now, if you'd be so kind, please follow or subscribe to our show wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're feeling extra nice, you might as well leave a 5-star review. But for more, visit the website, rrshow.com. That is rrshow.com. I'm your host, Vince. Thank you to my producer, Kevin, and we'll see you next time here on The RR Show.